Access your free language gifts right now before they expire. First, the Talking About Language PDF Conversation Cheat Sheet. This cheat sheet will teach you how to talk about languages and phrases like, I can speak a little bit of, I've been learning for 3 years, and much more. Second, do you know how to connect ideas in your target language? With this 1-minute lesson, you'll pick up must-know words like but, also, instead, therefore, and much more. Third, the 50 most common nouns that all beginners must know. Do you know all of these nouns? If not, this lesson teaches you the 50 must-know nouns fast. Learn them effortlessly with the audio slideshow tool inside. Fourth, the 50 most common verbs all beginners must know. How well do you know your verbs? This lesson will drill the 50 most common verbs into your head. Just use the free audio slideshow tool inside. Fifth, the All the Language You Need for Everyday Life Cheat Sheet Bundle. Get all of our best conversation cheat sheets rolled up into one with this gift. Download it right now before it disappears. And sixth, free language learning audiobooks for anyone who's watched this far. If you visit the link below, we'll send you over to our library of language learning audiobooks, which you can get for free. Save them to your device and listen and learn. They're yours to keep forever. To get your gifts and language learning resources, click the link in the description below. Download them right now before they expire. Hi everybody, welcome back to Ask Alicia, the weekly series where you ask me questions and I answer them. Maybe. Let's get to your first question this week. First question this week comes from Rubo. Hi Rubo. Rubo says, what's the difference between blame and frame? For example, he blamed me or he framed me. Super interesting question. Great. Okay, so let's talk about blame first. So when we blame someone, we blame another person for something, we are saying you are responsible for this thing. So another key part of the meaning of the word blame is that we are saying you are responsible for usually something bad that happened. So if an accident happened and we want to talk about the person who is responsible for it, we might blame that guy, which means it's that guy's fault, or he is the one who is responsible for the accident. So when we blame someone for something, we are pointing them out as the reason something happened. So again, we tend to use this in accident situations, maybe in cases where someone has done something against the law, so they've stolen something. We can also use the word blame to assign responsibility to a machine for something bad that happened. So for example, if you have a security system in your house and a thief breaks into the house, a thief is able to get into your house and steal things, after this happens, you might say, oh no, the security system didn't work, or the security system had some kind of problem. You could say, we blamed the security system for the break-in. So that's assigning responsibility or pointing out the security system as the responsible thing in that situation. So a key with blame, as I said, usually we are talking about something negative that happened and we use it to point out the person or the thing that is responsible for that. So to summarize blame, we use the word blame to show the responsibility of a person or a thing in a negative situation. We're pointing out the reason that a negative situation happened. Let's compare this now to the word frame. So frame is also used as a verb in negative situations. Generally, we use the word frame when someone has done something illegal, something that is against the law. So we typically don't use the word frame in accidents because, as you'll see in just a moment, frame is used when there's some kind of plan involved. Someone has an idea or an intention and they make this plan happen. So to frame someone, this is the key phrase here. We're not talking about framing a picture or framing a piece of art. This is a different use of the word frame. To frame a person means to create a situation in order to make it look like that person did something bad, but they actually did not. So what does this even mean? So let's imagine there's a company situation. There's a company scandal. Something terrible has happened. Like the company sent out all of the personal information of their clients. And you might think, oh, well, that's terrible. Who should we blame for this? And let's say the media says, person A, this is the person who did it. We can blame this person for doing it. But this person might say, no, no, it wasn't me. I was framed, which means another person did something, created a situation to make it look like person A did this. So for example, maybe person B used person A's email address to send the sensitive information to a lot of different people. So they created a situation, they made it look like the information came from person A, but person B was actually the person to do the terrible thing in this situation. So this kind of planning, where one person does something bad and makes it look like another person did it, we can say that this is being framed. Person A was framed. So when we say someone framed someone else, it's like saying one person created like a target around another person or put the focus on someone else. You can kind of imagine it as a frame, like a picture frame, right? But around a person. So the key with framing someone is that it's usually planned and it's usually done for a reason. So for example, in this company scandal example, it might be because maybe person A is doing really well in the company and person B is jealous and wants to get them out of that position. So person B can move into that spot. Or maybe, I don't know, person A is a really bad person and person B wants to remove them from the company. So they create a situation. So when we use frame in this way, there's usually a lot of different layers and we have to look at the reasons that other people created the situation to make this negative thing happen. So it's a very interesting word, I think. So I hope that this helps you understand the differences between blame and frame. To summarize again very, very quickly, when we blame someone for something, we point out they are responsible for something, usually a negative thing that happened. When we frame someone, we create a situation to make it look like someone did something negative, but actually someone else did the negative thing. So this is the difference between blame and frame. I hope that this answered your question. Thanks for sending it along. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Sepilu. Hi Sepilu, I hope I said your name correctly. Sepilu says, what is the meaning of M.I.A. and how is it used in everyday conversation? Nice question. Okay, M.I.A. Maybe you've seen this online or maybe you've seen this in movies as well from time to time. So this is not read as M.I.A. or M.I.A. or anything like that. We read this as M.I.A. We read the letters out loud. So this means missing in action, missing in action. And this expression comes from the military, actually. This is an expression that was used in the military, and it's still used in the military, to mean that someone, as part of their duties, went missing, or we were not able to find that person as they were doing their duties. So to give an example of this, maybe someone who is active in the military, they are doing their job in the military, goes on a mission or goes to some location, and we can't find them after that. So we don't know, were they hurt or were they injured? Did something else happen? We don't know. So in those situations, that person might be described as missing in action, or M.I.A. So your question asks, how do we use this in everyday life? Because sometimes, yeah, it is used in everyday communication. Generally, we don't have this very, very strong and serious meaning when we say that someone is M.I.A. now. In the military, this is a very serious situation, right? We can't find someone, and that's very concerning. But in everyday communication, when we say that someone is M.I.A., we usually use it to mean that someone we expected to be there is not there. So for example, if our boss was supposed to join a meeting and we know he's in the building, but he's not here, we might say, our boss is M.I.A., where is he? So we kind of use it as like a joke a little bit. So someone who is there, who is active, who is doing their job, but is not currently there or is not reporting in for some reason, we might describe that person as M.I.A. So this could be for a very short time, or it could be for a longer period of time. Like for example, if your friend disappears and you don't hear from them for a week, you might might think, oh my gosh, he's MIA. And then you find out maybe he's had to go to the hospital for a few days and he's been recovering. You might use MIA to describe that time period you weren't able to reach your friend. So to summarize, we use this word in everyday communication in kind of a light or a joking way to mean that someone is not there, but we expect them to be there. But if you hear this word or you see this word in maybe a military situation or other kind of official or government situation, it may mean a more serious thing has happened and someone is actually not reporting in, or we cannot find that specific person. Generally, you'll probably see it in everyday communication, but I hope that this answers your question about MIA and how to use it. Thanks very much for sending it along. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Miguel Alberto. Hi, Miguel. Miguel says, I've heard other people say, for a rainy day. What does that mean? Nice question, nice question. For a rainy day. This has a couple of different common uses. I'll talk about a couple of them here. So one is saving money. We use for a rainy day a lot to talk about saving money. The most common expression that you might hear with this is, I'm saving this money for a rainy day. So what does this mean? So when we say I'm saving money for a rainy day, it's like we're saying I'm saving money just in case something doesn't go as planned, or I'm saving a little bit of money just to have in case things aren't great at a certain point in time. So the kind of image that we have of a rainy day is that it's sad, gloomy, maybe we can't do the things that we want to do, we feel a little bit depressed perhaps. And so that same image we can take into our lives, right? So for those times when maybe we feel sad or depressed, or there's some kind of problem that we have, maybe we can't do something, or we're not able to go to the next step, whatever it is. Maybe we have a medical issue, or maybe we have a job problem or something like that. For those times that we have challenges in our lives, we have some money saved. This is the concept of saving money for a rainy day. So some people use this expression to mean I'm saving some money to just, keep myself safe in hard times. We also have this expression, saving money for a rainy day, to mean I'm going to save this money so that I can just use it on a day when I don't really have anything else going on. You kind of also have some people that use it in this way too. So on a rainy day, again, you can imagine, I can't really go outside, I can't do a whole lot, but maybe if I use my money a little bit, I can do something interesting inside. So some people use this expression to mean this as well. But I think most people, I would guess that most people tend to use it to mean like they just keep a little bit of money to be safe, to have a little bit of safety money available. So as I said, we tend to use for a rainy day to talk about money, saving money for a rainy day, but also we sometimes use this to talk about activities. So for example, if you suggest an indoor activity, like going to an art museum or maybe visiting a restaurant or something like that, someone might say, let's save it for a rainy day, which really means let's save it for a day that it's raining outside, or let's save it for a day when we don't have very much to do. So that means let's do that activity on another day or another time, maybe when it's a little quieter outside. So we have a couple of different ways that we use for a rainy day, and these are generally the situations in which we use them, when we're talking about money and when we're planning activities. So I hope that this helps you understand how we use for a rainy day. Thanks very much for sending your question along. All right, great. That is everything that I have for you for this week. Thank you, as always, for sending your super great questions. Remember, you can send them to me at EnglishClass101.com/ask-Alicia. There is also a link for this in the YouTube description, so please use that link to send me your questions. I will definitely, 100%, read your question if you send it to me on the official question submission page. Please do not send me your questions on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or other places. There are way too many messages and I will probably not see your message. So please send it to the official page where I will definitely have a chance to check it out. If you like this lesson, please, please, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Also, check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this week's episode of Ask Alicia, and I will see you again next time. Bye! Hi everybody, welcome back to Ask Alicia, the weekly series where you ask me questions and I answer them. Maybe. Let's get to your first question this week. First question this week comes from P. Kasi Viswadnaham. I hope I said your name correctly. P. Kasi says, Please explain how to make poetry, Alicia. Very nice question. Okay, poetry. So we have a couple of different types of poetry that we can talk about. The most basic form that we learn usually when we are very little kids in school is about creating lines of text, creating sentences that have the same sound at the end. So this is called a rhyme in English. So for example, words that rhyme in English would be, for example, something like bake and cake, right? Or snake and make and take. All of these have the same ending sound, right? The ending syllable has the same sound in all of these words. So we say these words rhyme. So when we're very, very little kids, we learn to make very simple poems by creating short sentences that rhyme. So that means the end of the sentence has the same sound as the end of the next sentence. So here's a very, very basic example of what it sounds like when the ends of the sentences that we put in our poems rhyme. So, I heard you like cake. How about we bake? What would you like to make? So in these 3 lines, we have the ending sounds that all rhyme, right? We have cake and bake and make. So this is the simplest form of a rhyme. We make short lines or short sentences that have the same sound at the end of them. So this is, as I said, the simplest way to create a poem. So you can start here if you've never created a poem before. But then as you get more advanced and as you start reading more and more things, a lot of poets, so poet means person who writes poems, a lot of poets go outside of this kind of general rhyming frame. So we see this kind of rhyming style of song making and poem making in popular culture a lot today. And that's very, very common and very, very popular. There's no problem with it. But if you read poetry from English authors, you'll notice that there are a lot of different rules that they apply. So the rules that more advanced poets and advanced authors use include considering the syllables, which means the beats of the words that are used in the lines. They have specific numbers of syllables that they use in lines, for example. This is a different kind of poetry rule. You might also read poets that use very, very strong imagery. So they choose to talk about maybe topics like love, or they talk about topics like war, and they use very strong images of those things to talk about the very challenging experiences or the joyous experiences of life. On the other hand, you might have poets that use very, very abstract imagery. You might read something and you think, what is this person talking about? And it's actually a poem about love. So depending on the poet, depending on the writer, they may use very strong imagery. Or when I said abstract, that means it's very hard to understand exactly what it's saying. So these are kind of very different from the very basic rules that we use in a lot of popular media today. But these are also very, very popular, especially among people who appreciate literature and poetry and writing. So these, as I said, are more advanced ways of writing poems, but generally the topics that people cover are those specific life challenges or the specific kind of high and low points of life. People talk about those and express themselves through their writing, and so they choose different words and different rhythms and so on to express these things. So in sum, if you want to get started with poetry and you're okay to just start with the super basics, which is great, all kids in US schools, I think, start with making poems that rhyme. You can start there, and if you want to look at more advanced topics, you can try Google searching for a few very, very famous poets and also search for analysis of those different poems that you find. That will give you a really, really good idea of the different ways that people write poems and choose their vocabulary words, what was happening in the world at the time, and so on. So this is a super quick introduction to poetry, but I hope that this answers your question, and I hope that you enjoy creating poetry for yourself. Okay, thanks very much for sending this question along. Let's move on to our next question. Next question comes from Spring. Hi, Spring. Spring says, hi, I'm Spring from Vietnam. Hello. I would like to ask you a question. Here's the context. Okay, my friend and I went to the supermarket and forgot to take the key from our motorbike lock. Luckily, it was still there after we were done shopping. I told her we were lucky that no one stole the motorcycle. She quickly replied to me that nobody came to take it. But the supermarket doesn't have any barriers, so it would probably have been easy for the thief to do it. In this case, is it grammatically correct for me to say, oh, you're so innocent, or should I say, oh, you are naive? I think that maybe she doesn't have much experience in life and is not thinking this thing through. I hope that you take a look at my question. Thank you so much. Yeah, really interesting question. So the key question here is really, what's the difference between innocent and naive, right? So someone who is innocent is someone who doesn't have very much knowledge about the world, and it's not their fault. We often say children are innocent. They don't have life experience, they don't know very much about the world, and they just are learning things as they go, right? So someone who is innocent doesn't know those things, and that's okay. But on the other hand, someone who is naive is someone who is probably old enough to have some life experience, to know some things about the world, and to understand the ways that the world works. So if I were you, if I were in this situation, it sounds like naive is maybe the better vocabulary choice. However, using the word naive to describe somebody, especially to them directly, it can sound really insulting because you're saying you're old enough to know better, right? You're saying that like your life experience should have taught you this by now. Why don't you know this? So it can sound kind of insulting to call someone naive. If I were in your situation and I wanted to express this, I might say something like, oh, you really want to see the good in people, right? But there are so many thefts that happen here. We really want to take care. So that expression, oh, I know that you really want to see the good in people, means that you try to think about people in the best possible way, even if that's not always true, right? So this is the difference between innocent and naive, but just be careful. If you call someone naive directly to their face, you might upset them. Okay, so let's take a look at just a couple more examples of the different ways that we can use these words so that you get an idea of how they're actually used. Let's start by talking about innocent. So earlier I mentioned that we often say that children are innocent, right? They don't have a lot of like life experience or world experience. But we can also use this in situations where someone doesn't have the specific kind of information required to make the right decision. So let's say that there's somebody who works in a really big company, and there are lots of different departments. There's A and B and C and D, and there's a bunch of them. So let's say that some guy who works in department B has to work with someone from department F, okay? And they each have different rules in the places where they work. So this guy, B, goes to F and says, hey, I need to file this report. And F says, great, okay, please do that right away. And so B does it, and there's a mistake in it. And F gets really, really angry. And it's like, why is this not done correctly? And F's coworkers might go, ah, he's innocent. B guy is innocent. He doesn't know. B has different rules for filing reports than we do in Department F. So this is a situation in which just the type of knowledge is different. In this situation, we might say, he's innocent, don't worry about it. It's just a different policy or a different way of doing something. So we can also use the word innocent to talk about situations in which someone's life knowledge or just like their job knowledge as well doesn't quite match with the other person's, and it's not anybody's fault. It's not a problem. But we just want to point out that's not something to get mad at that person about. We just want to say, he's innocent, it's okay, he did it according to his rules, according to what he knows. Let's fix the problem another way. So we tend to use innocent more when we're talking about kids and very young people that don't have a lot of life experience. You may hear it in like a job situation like this. Someone may use it from time to time, but probably in the situation I described with all of the different departments, you would probably hear somebody say like, oh, he just did it the way he knows how, or something like that. But you may hear someone say, oh, he's innocent, or oh, she's innocent, to mean that person has nothing to do with the problem, or they didn't do it on purpose, or something like that. So this is how we use innocent, and we use naive as well, as I said before, to describe people who should be able to know the way the world works, or should have a little bit of knowledge or information, but don't. As I said before, we typically don't use this word when we're saying this to someone directly. We typically use it to talk about someone else. Like, there's a new hire at the company, but she seems a little bit naive. I noticed that she doesn't know this, this, and this. So you typically use it to talk about somebody else. We typically don't say, you're naive, or I think you're really naive. It sounds quite aggressive and quite direct. Okay, great. So those are the differences between the word innocent and naive. I hope this long answer helped you understand the differences between them and also gave you another expression that you can use when you're speaking directly to someone about their life and world experience. So thanks very much for sending this interesting situation and question along. All right, let's move on to our next question. Next question comes from Bruce. Hi, Bruce. Bruce says, which preposition is appropriate to use before a reservation? For example, I made a reservation under Bruce's name. Is it under or with or by? Nice question. Yeah, generally we say the reservation is under so-and-so's name. So the reservation is under my name, or the reservation is under his name. The reservation is under my mom's name, whatever. We usually use under to talk about the reservation name. So when you arrive at the hotel, you arrive at the restaurant, you usually say, hello, there's a reservation under Alicia. Or you might also say, hello, there's a reservation for Alicia when we arrive there. When we talk about making the reservation, however, we use under. So I would say I made a reservation under my name, or I made the reservation under Alicia. We don't use with, we don't use by, we don't use for. I'll come back to for in a second because we use for in a different way. But let's talk about the other options that you presented. With, in particular, I want to talk about. If you use with to talk about a reservation, if you say something like, I made a reservation with your name, it sounds suspicious. It sounds like you created a reservation using my name, and I might think, why? Why did you make the reservation using my name? Why didn't you use your name? So generally, when you say, I made a reservation with his name, or with your name, or with that name, it's gonna sound a little bit suspicious. And the reason for this is that the person making the reservation could use their name, right? So when you use with, it's going to sound a little bit suspicious. So please keep in mind that using with tends to sound a little bit suspicious. Even if, for example, your boss says to you, hey, can you please make a reservation at this restaurant? Please use my name. When you get that permission from your boss to do that, and then you make the reservation, it still sounds better to say under. The reservation is under your name, or I made the reservation under your name. You don't really use with in this case as well. It sounds most natural to use under to do that. The next preposition you suggested was by. We do not use by in any way in this kind of pattern, so you don't have to worry about by. The same thing goes for to. We don't use to talk about making a reservation. I made a reservation to her or to me. Nope, don't use it. Don't worry about it. But I want to talk about for. We do sometimes use the word for when we want to talk about making a reservation not for ourselves. It's not my reservation, in other words. When we want to make a reservation and the reservation is a different person's reservation. Great, so I hope that this answered your question, and please make sure to use under someone's name when you make a reservation from now on. Thanks so much for sending your question along. All right, that is everything that I have for this week. Thank you, as always, for sending me your awesome questions. Please remember to send them to me at englishclass101.com/ask-Alicia. There is also a link for this in the YouTube description, so please send me your questions to the official question submission page. I will definitely read your question if you send it there. I will probably not be able to read your question if you send it somewhere else. There are way too many YouTube and Facebook and social media comments, so please, please, please make sure to send me your questions at the official question submission page, where I will definitely check it out. All right, if you enjoyed this lesson, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Also, check us out at englishclass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this week's episode of Ask Alicia, and I will see you again next time. Bye!
Are you struggling to understand conversations in your target language? This video will improve your listening skills using practice dialogues. How do you know if your language skills are improving? Our team of teachers have designed a free quiz to determine your actual learning level. So click the link in the description to get your free assessment and unlock lessons that are right for you. In this lesson, you'll listen to a dialogue with the text. Second, you'll review the key vocabulary followed by the English translations. And finally, you'll review the dialogue with the text again to master what you learned. First, listen to the dialogue with the text on the screen.
Could you hand me the comb?
Yep, here you go.
Thanks. Do you think this Mardi Gras costume fits me?
I think it looks fabulous.
Did you know that this is my first time in New Orleans?
Now you'll hear the key vocabulary, followed by the English translation.
Comb.
A strip of plastic, metal, or wood with a row of narrow teeth used for untangling or arranging hair.
Comb. Comb.
Our second word is
Costume.
set of clothes for a specific occasion. possibly meant to make the wearer look like someone or something else.
Costume. Costume.
Next we have
Fabulous.
extraordinary, amazingly good.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
Our next word is
First.
the starting item or person in a lineup.
First. First.
Next is
Time.
a moment, hour, day, or year.
Time. Time.
Next we have
Fits.
to be of the right size or shape.
Fits. Fits.
And our last word is
Mardi Gras.
a carnival celebration held, most famously, in New Orleans.
Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras.
Finally, let's review the dialogue again. See if you can understand more this time.
Could you hand me the comb?
Yep, here you go.
Thanks. Do you think this Mardi Gras costume fits me?
I think it looks fabulous.
Did you know that this is my first time in New Orleans?
This is the end of the lesson. In this lesson, you improved your listening and mastered key vocabulary for everyday life conversation. Don't forget to click the link in the description to get your free assessment and unlock lessons that are right for your learning level. Keep practicing and move on to the next lesson. Are you struggling to understand conversations in your target language? This video will improve your listening skills using practice dialogues. How do you know if your language skills are improving? Our team of teachers have designed a free quiz to determine your actual learning level. So click the link in the description to get your free assessment and unlock lessons that are right for you. In this lesson, you'll listen to a dialogue with the text. Second, you'll review the key vocabulary followed by the English translations. And finally, you'll review the dialogue with the text again to master what you learned. First, listen to the dialogue with the text on the screen.
We'd like to thank all of you for flying with us and hope you have a safe stay in the Tampa Bay area. This landing is going to be very difficult.
Yes, it will. I never thought I'd be on a plane heading toward a hurricane.
I was once, but we weren't this close. You could see the eye of the storm from flight altitude.
Now you will hear the key vocabulary, followed by the English translation.
Flying.
Moving or able to move through the air with wings.
Flying. Flying.
Our second word is
Safe.
metal container where valuables, money, are kept.
Safe. Safe.
Our third word is
Stay.
time spent in a place.
Stay. Stay.
Our next word is
Pilot.
a person who flies a plane.
Pilot. Pilot.
Next we have
Plane.
an airplane.
Plane. Plane.
Next is
Hurricane.
a storm of violent wind, a tropical cyclone in the Caribbean.
Hurricane. Hurricane.
Next we have
Altitude.
the height of an object or point in relation to sea level or ground level.
Altitude. Altitude.
And our last word is
Toward.
in the direction of.
Toward. Toward.
Finally, let's review the dialogue again. See if you can understand more this time.
We'd like to thank all of you for flying with us and hope you have a safe stay in the Tampa Bay area. This landing is going to be very difficult.
Yes, it will. I never thought I'd be on a plane heading toward a hurricane.
I was once, but we weren't this close. You could see the eye of the storm from flight altitude.
This is the end of the lesson. In this lesson, you improved your listening and mastered key vocabulary for everyday life conversation. Don't forget to click the link in the description to get your free assessment and unlock lessons that are right for your learning level. Keep practicing and move on to the next lesson. Are you struggling to understand conversations in your target language? This video will improve your listening skills using practice dialogues. How do you know if your language skills are improving? Our team of teachers have designed a free quiz to determine your actual learning level. So click the link in the description to get your free assessment and unlock lessons that are right for you. In this lesson, you'll listen to a dialogue with the text. Second, you'll review the key vocabulary followed by the English translations. And finally, you'll review the dialogue with the text again to master what you learned. First, listen to the dialogue with the text on the screen.
What city do you most want to visit?
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh? Why Pittsburgh?
It's because my family is from there. When my great-great-great-grandparents came from England to the USA, they lived in Pittsburgh for several generations.
So you have family in the area?
Yeah, and lots of family history.
Now you will hear the key vocabulary, followed by the English translation.
Visit.
To go to and stay at a place for a short period of time.
Visit. Visit.
Next we have
Family.
a group of people usually related by blood.
Family. Family.
Next we have
England.
the old name of the United Kingdom.
England. England.
Next we have
USA.
abbreviation for United States of America.
USA. USA.
Our next word is
Lived.
spend a part of one's life in a particular place.
Lived. Lived.
Next we have
Grandparents.
the parents of one's father or mother.
Grandparents. Grandparents.
Next is
Several.
more than two, but not many.
Several. Several.
Next we have
Generations.
all of the people born and living at about the same time.
Generations. Generations.
Next we have
Area.
within a region.
Area. Area.
And our last word is
History.
the record of everything that has happened to a group of people.
History. History.
Finally, let's review the dialogue again. See if you can understand more this time.
What city do you most want to visit?
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh? Why Pittsburgh?
It's because my family is from there. When my great-great-great-grandparents came from England to the USA, they lived in Pittsburgh for several generations.
So you have family in the area?
Yeah, and lots of family history.
This is the end of the lesson. In this lesson, you improved your listening and mastered key vocabulary for everyday life conversation. Don't forget to click the link in the description to get your free assessment and unlock lessons that are right for your learning level. Keep practicing and move on to the next lesson. Are you struggling to understand conversations in your target language? This video will improve your listening skills using practice dialogues. How do you know if your language skills are improving? Our team of teachers have designed a free quiz to determine your actual learning level. So click the link in the description to get your free assessment and unlock lessons that are right for you. In this lesson, you'll listen to a dialogue with the text. Second, you'll review the key vocabulary followed by the English translations. And finally, you'll review the dialogue with the text again to master what you learned. First, listen to the dialogue with the text on the screen.
Look at this blouse, Jess.
Wow, that's a nice color. It looks very pretty on you, Ashley.
Thank you. I really like it.
Are you going to buy it?
I think I am, but I wish it were on sale. It's a bit expensive.
Well, there's no sales tax in Portland. Is that considered on sale?
Huh, that sealed the deal. I'll buy it.
Now you will hear the key vocabulary, followed by the English translation.
Blouse.
A woman's loose upper garment resembling a shirt.
Blouse. Blouse.
Our second word is
Color.
the appearance something has because of the way it reflects light.
Color. Color.
Next we have
Pretty.
visually pleasing, attractive.
Pretty. Pretty.
Next is
Buy.
to get something in exchange for money.
Buy. Buy.
Our next word is
Sale.
the exchange of a commodity for money.
Sale. Sale.
Next we have
Tax.
compulsory contribution to state revenue.
Tax. Tax.
Next is
Considered.
thought carefully about.
Considered. Considered.
Next is
Sealed.
the state of being joined or rendered impervious.
Sealed. Sealed.
And our last word is
Deal.
agreement or transaction between people.
Deal. Deal.
Finally, let's review the dialogue again. See if you can understand more this time.
Look at this blouse, Jess.
Wow, that's a nice color. It looks very pretty on you, Ashley.
Thank you. I really like it.
Are you going to buy it?
I think I am, but I wish it were on sale. It's a bit expensive.
Well, there's no sales tax in Portland. Is that considered on sale?
Huh, that sealed the deal. I'll buy it.
This is the end of the lesson. In this lesson, you improved your listening and mastered key vocabulary for everyday life conversation. Don't forget to click the link in the description to get your free assessment and unlock lessons that are right for your learning level. Keep practicing and move on to the next lesson.
Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about making complaints, apologizing, and providing solutions. For this lesson, I'm going to focus on making complaints and apologizing and so on in customer service situations. In these cases, I'm focusing on restaurant, bar, cafe, and hotel-related situations. Let's get started. First, I want to look at how to make complaints. I've chosen some patterns you can use to make a variety of different complaints in a few different situations. Let's begin with these two. The first way to make a complaint is my plus machine isn't working. So in this complaint pattern, we use some kind of machine. This can be like an electronic device. It can be something that doesn't use electricity, but that is like a machine. It's something that has many parts that we need to work together. So we use isn't working when we're talking about a problem with a machine. So for example, my smartphone isn't working, or my refrigerator isn't working, my air conditioner isn't working. Some kind of machine isn't working. This isn't is not, and working means functioning, but we do not say functioning. Functioning sounds way too formal and is not a conversational word. Instead, we say my machine isn't working. You might also hear, my machine isn't working properly, or my machine isn't working correctly. So that shows there's some kind of problem. This is a common way to make a complaint about some type of machine. My computer isn't working. Then, this next one is similar. It is, the object is broken, or you could say my or his or her to be specific about whose object. But in this pattern, we can use any object. That includes machines. So when we say is broken, it just means this thing is not functioning correctly, or there's some problem with it. I cannot use this object in this condition. There's some problem. So we can use machines in this pattern. The smartphone is broken, or my smartphone is broken. My computer is broken. That has the same meaning here. But in this pattern, we can use things that are not machines, like my chair is broken, or my hairbrush is broken, or this pot in my kitchen is broken. So you can use is broken to refer to many different objects, many different things in many situations. This pattern is used for machines, for like electronic devices. So these two are very, very useful for explaining when something is not functioning correctly. Okay. On to the next one. This one is good in a restaurant or bar or cafe. We use this expression when the waitstaff brings you something and it is not the thing you ordered. So you ordered item A, they bring you item B. You say, this isn't what I ordered. This isn't what I ordered, or I didn't order this. So usually you'll say, this isn't what I ordered. I ordered A. This is B. So I ordered, past tense, A. This is B. So we start with, this isn't what I ordered, or sorry, I don't think this is what I ordered, to make it a little softer. This isn't what I ordered, or I didn't order this. Okay, on to the next one. The next one is kind of useful in hotels and other accommodation-related situations. It depends a little bit, the final sentence depends on the singular or the plural form of the item in question. So when we want to use this pattern, it's because we are missing something in the room, in our hotel room, that we expect to be there, that should be there, or there is something in the room that should not be there. So that's why there's this no or no in parentheses. Let's first take a look at what we do in this pattern when we have an object that we use in the plural form. So, for example, there are no towels in my room. There are no towels in my room. So in a hotel room, maybe I expect there will be towels in my hotel room so I can take a shower or a bath. But there are no towels in my room. I want to make a complaint. I use this pattern to do it because towels, plural, needs to take this are. There are no towels pattern. If, however, I want to maybe say I want to use the singular form of something. Maybe if I expect there should be a refrigerator in my room, but there's not, I could say, there is no refrigerator in my room. There is no refrigerator in my room, or there's no air conditioner in my room. I expected it, but it's not here. So we use this singular pattern with is. So is matches with a singular object. Then let's compare this to something that is in the room that we do not want in the room. For example, there are flies in my room. There are flies in my room. Maybe there are hundreds of flies or bees or something. There are flies in my room. So again, we use the plural flies or bees or whatever kind of insect, and we use are to match this plural item. There are flies in my room, or there are bees in my room. Then, if we need to talk about a single item, we need to use this pattern, but we also need to use an article, a or an, before the object if it is a countable noun. So for more about countable and uncountable nouns, please check the countable nouns and uncountable nouns videos on our YouTube channel or on our website. So, for example, if there's an animal in your room, there is a squirrel in my room. So I don't expect a squirrel to be in my room. I'm shocked. There is a squirrel in my room. So I use a because my singular noun, squirrel, begins with S. So a squirrel in my room. Or maybe in a crazy situation, there is an elephant in my room. So I use an in that case because elephant begins with an E sound, that eh sound. There is an elephant in my room. So we use this pattern to express something that is in the room that we do not want there, and we use the negative pattern to talk about something we expect to be in the room, but that is not there. Okay, let's go to the last complaint. This one is good in restaurant and bar and cafe situations. I'm allergic to this. I'm allergic to this, or you can change this to the item. I'm allergic to bread, or I'm allergic to nuts. You can change this to be specific. I'm allergic to means I have an allergy to. I have an allergy to something. We use I'm allergic to. We use the preposition to in this case. Okay, so we have some basic complaints we can use in customer service situations. Now let's see how we apologize. So if you are staff, or if you need to understand clearly, which everybody does, the response from the staff, let's take a look at these expressions. When you're apologizing, please be careful about using the expression, I'm sorry. So I'm sorry expresses a very basic feeling. I am sorry. However, please note we use this expression when we personally made a mistake. So we use this a lot in like friendships and when we're talking to our family members. So I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Like I forgot to buy milk. I'm sorry. It was my mistake. In customer service situations then, sometimes it's not your mistake. It's someone else's mistake, or it's a company mistake. It's something, just the situation was not correct somehow. So if you say, I'm sorry, it sounds like maybe you are the person to blame. So here are some better ways to apologize for something. Here, I'm terribly sorry about the mistake. So this is a professional way to apologize if you were the person that made the mistake. For example, the customer says, this isn't what I ordered, and you check and you're like, oh no, I made a mistake. You can say, I'm terribly sorry about the mistake. Terribly means so, but this is a more formal way to express an apology. I'm terribly sorry about the mistake, or I'm terribly sorry for the mistake. You can use either here, no difference in meaning, or I'm terribly sorry about that as well. So in some cases, you don't want to say the mistake, just I'm terribly sorry about that. There was some kind of strange situation. So this sounds like a more professional way of saying, I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry about the mistake if you did something, or that if the situation is not so good somehow. On to this next one. We apologize for the inconvenience. We apologize for the inconvenience. Please note that we're beginning this expression with we. Here, I sounds like me, just me, one person. We is something we use when we're apologizing or when we're talking for a group, or you're talking for your company or for your organization. So this is very common in emails. We apologize for the inconvenience. For the inconvenience means we apologize for causing you a problematic situation, or this is not a convenient situation for you. We're sorry for that. That's what this means. We apologize for the inconvenience. You might say that in response to something like this, like, there are no towels in my room. The staff at the hotel might say, oh, we apologize for the inconvenience. So that's how they might begin to fix the problem. We apologize for the inconvenience. You might also see this in road construction situations. There are signs on the road that say, we apologize for the inconvenience, like we're doing road construction at this time. Okay, this one is useful. The next one is useful when you hear bad news. Sometimes in customer service situations, an upset customer will share something that's not related to you, but they want to just express some unhappy feeling or whatever. You can also use this with friends and family too, when there's a bad situation, but you are not related to the situation. So like, for example, someone lost their job, or they lost like their wallet or their car keys or something. You can respond with, I'm so sorry to hear that. Or to make less of an emphasized statement, I'm sorry to hear that. So, I'm so sorry to hear that. This part is important, to hear that. I'm so sorry, again, means I made a mistake. I'm so sorry means I made a mistake. I'm so sorry to hear that means I feel sad, or I feel sorry for you when I hear that information. I'm so sorry to hear that. So use this when you hear bad news, bad news. Okay, last one here is a very formal apology for a very big mistake. We deeply apologize for the error. We deeply apologize for the error. So maybe in this case, like, there are already people in my room. Like, you might walk into a hotel room and someone else is in your hotel room, and you say, oh my gosh, there are already people in my room. There are people in my hotel room. They might say, we deeply apologize for the error. So this is similar to we apologize for something. We deeply apologize. That means very, very much. We deeply apologize for the error, or for the mistake, you might hear too. In this case, error and mistake mean the same thing. Error sounds a little bit more formal. We deeply apologize for the error. Okay, finally then, let's talk about giving solutions. So how does staff, how do people in the situation try to fix the problem, make the customer happy? You'll notice all of these begin with we'll or I'll. We will or I will. We use will in all of these because the speaker is making a decision in the conversation. So this is new information. The staff is getting a complaint from the customer. The staff's responsibility is to make a decision in that moment to help the customer. So we don't use going to generally in response to these. We use will. For example, I'll arrange for someone to fix it right away. So for example, my air conditioner isn't working. Might say, we apologize for the inconvenience. I'll arrange for someone to fix it right away. So in this case, yes, I've mixed we and I in example sentences, but you might hear, I'm very sorry for the inconvenience. I'll arrange for someone to fix it right away. So that sounds more like a little bit of personal responsibility. Or to make it more of like a company feeling, we apologize for the inconvenience. We'll arrange for someone to fix it right away. So arrange for someone means we're going to call someone, some person, like some repair person, to come to where you are to fix the problem. We'll arrange for someone to fix it right away. Another solution-related sentence, we'll get a replacement for you immediately. We'll get a replacement for you immediately. So for example, the chair in my room is broken. They might say, oh, I'm terribly sorry about that. Or we're terribly sorry about that. We'll get a replacement for you immediately. So to get a replacement means to acquire, to obtain a replacement of that item. So you might hear, we'll get a new chair, or we'll get a replacement chair for you immediately. But replacement just means replacement of that thing you mentioned. Immediately here and right away in this one. In this case, they mean roughly the same thing. Immediately sounds a little faster and like with a little more urgency, like maybe it's an emergency situation. We'll get a replacement for you immediately. Right away sounds like polite, yes, and it's going to happen quickly. It doesn't sound so like urgent. It doesn't sound like emergency level like immediately does though. Okay, next expression, we'll prepare the correct dish or the correct drink right away. So this is in response to this. This isn't what I ordered. Oh, I'm terribly sorry about the mistake. We'll prepare the correct dish right away. We'll prepare the correct drink right away. So that's how you explain that the thing the customer originally ordered is going to come soon. Again, we'll prepare the correct dish or drink. Probably we'll is best in this situation because in most cases, the person taking customer orders is not the person also cooking food or making drinks. So we'll sounds like our staff will prepare this now. Okay, next one. We'll send some to you right away, or we'll send one to you right away. This is in response to a complaint like this. As we talked about before, singular and plural are important to consider here. Same thing with the answer. For example, there are no towels in my room. Oh, we're very sorry to hear that. We're very sorry for the inconvenience. We'll send some to you right away. We'll send some towels, or we'll send a few towels. So you need to consider, is this a singular thing or a plural thing? Towels is plural, so some is a nice choice. Or we'll send a few, so not just one. If, however, it's one item, like there's no refrigerator in my room, they'll say, we'll send one to you right away. We'll send one to you right away. If you say some, it sounds like you're going to get more than one refrigerator. We'll send you some refrigerators right away. Plural, so just one refrigerator. Please keep this in mind when you're answering this question. Finally, I'll take this away. I'll take this away. This is in response to, I'm allergic to this. So I received a dish, I'm allergic to this. They might say, oh, we deeply apologize for the error. I'll take this away. Or I'm very sorry about the mistake. I'll take this away. That means I will remove this dish from your table or from the place you are sitting. I'll, again, take this away. So these are some sample solutions. Again, please consider using will. All of these use will because we're making a decision in the moment of speaking. So I hope that this lesson was helpful for you both in making complaints and in understanding and providing apologies and solutions. Of course, there are many more ways to make complaints and to apologize and to give solutions. So if you have any questions or comments, or if there's another idea that you have, please feel free to include it in the comment section of this video. Also, if you like this lesson, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this lesson, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye. Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about journalism and newspaper vocabulary. So these are vocabulary words that are used in the news. So you might see these in online newspapers, in magazines, and in other kinds of reports. Let's get started. Okay, the first word or group of words I want to talk about is this. It is article, piece, or story. We use these three words to mean the same thing in most cases. So these three words refer to an essay or an opinion or other writing that is published in media. So this can be, like I said, someone's opinion. It can be something that was researched. It can be interviews, but it's some writing prepared for publication, prepared to be shared in media of some kind, like in a magazine or a newspaper, perhaps a blog, something like that. For example, this is a really interesting story. So here, story is used. When we're using story to talk about this kind of writing, it does not mean like fiction story, like a children's story. We use the word story to talk about news items as well. Okay, let's go to the next expression, which is according to. According to. So according to is an expression we use to share the source of some information. So this can be a person, this can be a written document, it can be some kind of writing, it can be a report, it can be any kind of information, any place you receive information, any place you get information, that can be a source. So you can note the source, you can indicate the source with according to. For example, according to witnesses, the suspect broke a window to escape. So in this case, the source is witnesses. So a witness is someone who saw something. In this case, a crime. Witnesses is the plural, which means according to more than one person who saw what happened, the suspect broke a window to escape. So we indicate, we share the source of information with according to. Okay, let's continue to the next expression, or the next verb in this case, to cite. To cite. The pronunciation here is cite. C-I-T-E. So to cite something means to refer to a written document, usually a written document, but it can be other media as well, as an information source or a reason for doing something. So, for example, he cited his professor's book in his essay. So that means in this person's essay, in his essay, in his essay, he included his professor's book as a source of information. So that means this was a key place that this writer got his information from. He cited his professor's book. So we can talk about other sources. Usually when we use cite, we're talking about written information. So this can be a thesis paper, it can be an essay, it can be a newspaper article. So we cite information, we cite our sources to make our essays, to make our writing clearer and to show where we got our information from. So it's like saying, this is my opinion. The reason I have this opinion is because I read this information, and this information. So we can check kind of the background of the writing by looking at the things the writer cited. So to cite something is extremely, extremely important if you are preparing documentation at the college or university level. It's very common for students to cite other papers, cite books and other media sources in their thesis writing and in other essay writing. So this is a very important thing to do, to cite sources. Okay, let's go to the next word, which is to publish something. To publish means to make writing or photos or other media available for people to access. So to publish, this is not just for like major magazines or major news websites. We also use publish on blogs. Like when we finish writing an essay on a blog, we might push the button that says publish. So that means make it accessible for other people to read. Make it so other people can check that thing. So to publish is a very general word. We can use this on social media as well, like to publish a photo maybe on Instagram. So we don't generally use that word, but that's what it means. It means to make something accessible on media somewhere. For example, we're going to publish your article next week. We're going to publish your article next week means we are going to make your article available for other people to access next week. This can be in print, which I'll talk about in a moment, or it can be online as well. Okay, on to the next one. The next one is to research, So research is a very important part of journalism and any kind of news or reporting, any kind of college study as well. So to research means to look for detailed information about a topic to research. So please keep in mind we don't use research for quick everyday checks. Like we don't really say like, please research in the dictionary the definition of this word. We don't use it for that. We use it for detailed information. We're looking for lots and lots of detailed information about something, about a specific topic. We don't use the word research to talk about quick checks of information. In those cases, we say look up. So to look something up. So to research sounds like a big project. For example, she researched the effects of smartphone use on kids. She researched the effect of smartphone use on kids. So that means she gathered lots and lots of detailed information about this topic, smartphone use on kids. Okay, on to the next one. The next one is finding or findings. So you might see this in news reports and in other research-related papers. So finding or findings, as we sometimes use it, means results of research. So what did you find after your research? We sometimes call that the research finding for one thing, or the research findings for other things, for more than one thing rather. So this means the result or the results of the research. What did you learn? What did you find? We can sometimes call those the findings of the research. For example, the research findings show that regular exercise is important. The research findings. So this means the research results. That's all it means. The research results show. So this show connects here. That means from this information we got, this information shows. So in this case, we're using the plural findings, so we don't need to change show to shows. The research findings show that regular exercise is important, or we learned from our research that regular exercise is important. So this is another way to describe research outcomes or research results, but we use finding or findings to do that. Okay, I mentioned this expression a little bit earlier. There are two here. To go to press or to go to print. These two expressions mean to publish something on a recognized media platform. So to go to press or to go to print. So these come from kind of traditional media expressions, like physically printing a newspaper or printing a magazine. So to go to press, the press means the media as well. So we use these two expressions for like big media platforms. We do not use these expressions for like a blog or for social media. It's usually for a big like article about something that's published in like a major news source. So we don't use this for like small individual projects really. But again, this has the same meaning of publish. It means to share something, to make it accessible for other people to read. So to go to print or to go to press. For example, the piece went to print with an error. So that means the piece, my story, the thing that I wrote or the thing that someone wrote, went to print. That means it was shared on a large media platform with an error. That means inside the writing, there was a mistake. So the piece of writing, or the thing that I wrote, the thing a person wrote, was shared to a lot of people on a recognized media platform, but there was a mistake inside the writing. So that's what this means. This is, of course, a much shorter way to say that. The piece went to print with an error. We could change this, the piece went to press with an error as well. So this went comes from go. Go becomes went here. All right, let's talk about these next two. These next two vocabulary words are about people, roles in journalism and in article and in story production. So the first one is editor. An editor is someone who decides what stories to include in a publication and therefore what stories not to include in a publication. And the editor decides how to talk about those stories. So that means that every major publication, like every major magazine, every major newspaper, has an editor. The editor is making decisions about how to share stories. So this is a key role because it determines the feel and it determines kind of the opinions that are generally presented by that publication. For example, the editor decided not to include my travel article. So that means like the head of the publication, the editor, decided, I don't want to include this article this month. Maybe I'll do it next month. So the editor makes decisions about which stories or which pieces to include or not include. Then, this word, copy editor. A copy editor is different from an editor, though sometimes, depending on the situation, they may share some roles. So a copy editor is someone who checks writing to make sure the information is correct, one, and they also check grammar, punctuation, spelling, etc. So a copy editor is there to check the writer, to make sure the writer is sharing the correct information, so all the facts are there, and they're there to check grammar, to check the spelling, to check that your ideas are clearly communicated. So the copy editor is like the first person who reads an article. They're checking to see, is this clear? Is everything clearly and correctly communicated? So a copy editor is very important in the process. Related is something called a proofreader too. So a proofreader is like the step before a copy editor. A proofreader is someone who generally checks like capitalization, so large letters or small letters, punctuation, and so on. They're looking for those kinds of things. And then a copy editor is kind of the next level. They're looking for fact checks, or rather they're doing fact checks, or they're looking to see if the writing can be improved somehow to be more clear, and so on. So copy editors and editors are very important to the process. Okay, in an example, the copy editor caught lots of mistakes in my story. So to catch a mistake means to find a mistake. So it sounds like, in this case, the writer is happy because the copy editor found lots of issues, and otherwise the piece might have gone to print with an error. Okay, finally then, to commission a piece. So to commission something means to ask someone to do something, to create something in exchange for money. So to commission a piece means to ask someone to write about a topic, a specific topic, for money. For example, I was commissioned to write a piece about the environment. I was commissioned to write a piece about the environment. That means someone asked me to write a story, to write an article about the environment, and they promised I would be paid. So to commission a piece in the journalism world means to receive money in exchange for writing about a topic. So these are some good vocabulary words to know as you read the news, as you read newspapers, magazines, and so on. Of course, there are many more, so if you know some other words, please feel free to leave them in the comment section for other people to check out. Also, if you want to practice making sentences, or if you have any questions or other comments, please feel free to share those in the comment section as well. If you like this lesson, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel if you have not already, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this lesson, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye. Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about expressions to use in friendships and in romantic relationships. We're going to practice a few key expressions for asking about plans, like making plans, and then talking about things after you've done the plan. So let's get started. Okay, the first couple of expressions are related to asking about someone else's schedule. They are you doing anything on day? For example, are you doing anything on Sunday? Are you doing anything on Monday? Are you doing anything on day? And are you free day and time? For example, are you free Sunday at 3 p.m. or are you free Saturday evening? So you'll notice I used a couple of different patterns there, like Sunday at 3 p.m. If you're using a time, yes, you do need to include a preposition here, at, Sunday at 3 p.m. If you're using like morning, afternoon, evening, no preposition. Are you free Friday evening? Are you free Saturday morning? In that case, no preposition is necessary here. You can mix and match these, of course, too. Are you doing anything on Saturday night is great too. Or are you free Sunday? Also okay. So you can kind of change these around, but these two expressions are like questions for someone else's schedule. You can be more specific with something like this. Do you want to get lunch or dinner tomorrow? Do you want to get lunch or dinner this weekend? Do you want to get dinner sometime this week? So these are just a couple of ideas, and of course you can change lunch and dinner to coffee or a drink as well. But do you want to get sounds casual and friendly. If you say, would you like to eat lunch? It's also okay, but it will sound more formal. So for friendships and for more romantic relationships, it's a little more common to use a pattern like this. At native speed, this sounds like, do you want to get dinner tomorrow? Or do you want to get dinner this weekend? So this sounds a little bit more natural. The next one, what are you up to? What are you up to? You can use this with your friends and with someone that you're already a little close to. At native speed, this sounds like, what are you up to? What are you up to? So we can use this in two different ways. What are you up to for a holiday? Or what are you up to on a day? For example, what are you up to for summer vacation? Or what are you up to for the long weekend? So there's some kind of special day here that everybody knows about. What are you up to for Thanksgiving? Or what are you up to for Halloween? There's some kind of special event that's happening, and you want to know the other person's plans. So what are you up to means what are your plans for that holiday? You can also use the on pattern. What are you up to on Saturday? What are you up to on Sunday? What are you up to on Monday evening? So in this case, we use on plus a day. We use for with a holiday. We cannot mix and match these. We cannot say, what are you up to for Sunday? That's not something we generally say. We also don't say, what are you up to on Christmas? Like maybe you would hear that in British English, I suppose, but it's not a pattern that's so common in American English. So what are you up to is a question about someone's plans. So after you ask about someone's plans and maybe you get lunch or you get dinner, you get a coffee, you get a drink, whatever, to talk about the next time to get together or to express your feelings about your experience positively, you can say, I had a great time with you. I had a great time with you. This is something that we tend to use more in romantic situations. Like you had a date with someone, you can say, I had a great time with you. To make it a little more casual, you can say, I had a great time hanging out with you. Or another word choice you can make is, I had a blast. I had a blast. I had a blast with you, or I had a blast hanging out with you. This sounds very casual and very positive. So there are many ways that we can change the level of formality here and closeness with our vocabulary choice. You can use this expression if you want to see the other person again. You can use this with your friends and in romantic situations. Let's get together again soon. Let's get together again soon. And native speed, let's get together again soon. So we want to express that we want to meet the other person in the near future. Let's get together again soon. You can follow up with, let me know when you're free. Let me know when you're free. That means please tell me when you have time in your schedule. So let's get together again soon. Let me know when you're free. So you'll notice these two words connect closely. Let me becomes lemme. Let me know when you're free. Or let me know when you have some free time. Let me know when you want to go for a drink. So there are a few different ways we can change the end, but this let me know will remain the same. So please tell me about your schedule, in other words. That's the key point we want to communicate here. Finally, this is a really good one to use if you have a heavy talk with your good friend or family member or, I suppose, romantic partner. Thanks for the good chat, or thanks for a great chat. So if you had a really, really good discussion with someone, this is a great expression to use to finish that. So, for example, I had a great time hanging out with you today. Like, thanks for the good chat. Like, you can use that to express specifically what you liked about spending time with that other person. So these are a few expressions that you can use to ask about plans and to follow up after your plans with someone. So I hope that this is helpful for you in your friendships and in other relationships as well. Of course, there are many other expressions that you can use in these kinds of situations. So if you know some others, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. Also, if you want to practice making some sentences or questions with this information, please feel free to do so in the comment section. As well, leave any comments or questions you have about these topics. Okay, if you liked the lesson, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this lesson, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye. Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. In this lesson, we're going to look at how to use apostrophes. Let's get started. Okay, in this lesson, I want to talk about two basic uses of the apostrophe. The things I'm going to talk about in this lesson will cover most basic uses of the apostrophe. There are two categories of use. We're going to look at showing possession, and we're going to look at contractions to show the missing letters in words. Let's start by showing possession with apostrophes. So, to show possession with an apostrophe, you can use apostrophe S after a noun. So this expresses that something belongs to the noun. So let's look at some very basic examples of this. First, my teacher's pen. In this example, we have my teacher as the noun that we have to show possession for. We have the apostrophe here, and then it's followed by S. Next is pen. This shows that the pen is owned by my teacher. We can use apostrophe S to demonstrate this. Let's look at the next example. His sister's car. His sister's car. In this sentence, sister is the person owning something, or rather, his sister. So again, apostrophe S shows the ownership in this situation. The car is owned by his sister. Let's look at the last basic example. It's my father's wallet. My father's wallet. Again, we have apostrophe S after the owner of the object. So here, my father is the owner of the wallet. So we can use apostrophe S to show ownership in this way. But there are some very important rules to keep in mind to make sure that you always express this ownership clearly and correctly. So let's take a look at two key rules for you to follow. Okay, first, number one, if it's a singular noun, so this means if you want to show the possession of something that is a singular noun, that means just one thing or just one person, add apostrophe S to make it plural. Okay? This is true even if the singular noun ends in S. So this part right here is sometimes confusing even for native speakers. You learn sometimes I shouldn't put another S after the noun. When should I do that? I don't know. So this is the rule. So if it's a singular noun, add apostrophe S to make it plural. So let's look at some examples of this. First, the business's plan. The business's plan. In this situation, business is our noun. We want to express something that is owned by the business. So business ends with an S, but it's a singular noun, one business, right? We still have to add apostrophe S to make it plural. I'm sorry, we still have to add apostrophe S to show ownership. This is a singular noun. We're not making it plural here. The business's plan. So this shows the plan owned by the business. Okay, let's look at another example of this. His bus's schedule. His bus's schedule. So again, bus is a singular noun that ends with S. We still have to follow this rule. We add apostrophe S after the bus to show ownership. So this schedule belongs to the bus, or his bus in this case. So it's some kind of connection we're showing here. Here's one more example of this S rule. Her dress's color. Her dress's color. So again, dress is our singular noun. It ends in S. We still have to put apostrophe S to show ownership. So in this case, the dress doesn't actually own the color, of course, but the color is a quality that belongs to the dress. So even if your singular noun ends in S, you need to put an apostrophe S after it to show possession, to show ownership. We saw the same thing up here. So these singular nouns do not end in S, but we have to follow the same rule. So this one is an easy one, right? If you're just talking about one of something, one noun, just put apostrophe S after it to show ownership. Okay, great. So let's continue on to rule number 2. Rule number 2 is a little bit trickier than rule number 1. So let's take a look. Okay, for rule number 2, if it's a plural noun, so plural means more than one of something, if it's a plural noun, use an apostrophe after the S. That means no additional S after it, unless the plural noun does not end in S. So this is kind of tricky. Let's break down what this means. So plural nouns, generally, when we create a plural noun, we simply add S to the end of the noun to make it plural, right? Like teacher becomes teachers, right? Or sister becomes sisters, or father becomes fathers, right? More than one of something. We add an S to the end of it. So if it's a plural noun that follows this rule, just add an apostrophe after the S. You don't need to add apostrophe plus S, just one apostrophe. And it's done, it's finished, it's good. Unless, however, there is an exception, unless the plural noun doesn't end in S. So there are some plural nouns that don't end in S, right? They're special nouns, right? So we'll see an example of this here. So let's take a look at these kinds of examples that we have and break down what's happening. So first one, my parents' house. My parents' house. So in this example, my parents is the noun. This is the plural noun, two people, parents, right? And we have an apostrophe after the S. In this situation, there's no extra S after this because it follows this rule. So the plural noun, parents in this case, just gets an apostrophe here like this, okay? So my parents' house, this shows the house that belongs to my parents, okay? Let's look at the next example. The next example are children's grades, our children's grades. So this is an example of the exception here. So children is an example of a plural noun that does not end in S, right? We have one child, two children, right? So this is a plural noun that does not end in S. In this situation, we need to use apostrophe S, just as we did with rule number 1, right? So in this situation, when you have a plural noun that doesn't end in S, make sure to add that apostrophe S. So if you want to talk about other things like mice, for example, so the mice is something, we need to add that apostrophe S. So this is a good one to keep in mind when you're writing a sentence that uses those plural nouns that are kind of irregular, okay? Let's go to the last example, the students' party, the students' party. So here again, we have a regular plural noun. It's just student plus S, right? Students. We again put the apostrophe after students. No additional S because it follows the basic rule part here. So no exception in this case. So keep this one in mind. This one requires a little bit more thought. Just consider that S at the end. Plural noun or singular noun. Those are kind of the two things it's important to keep in mind with this. Okay, so this is what I want to talk about for showing possession, using apostrophes to show possession. Let's go now to part 2. So the other part of today's lesson is using apostrophes to show contraction. So a contraction is the short form or the reduced form of two words generally. So we use apostrophes to show or to kind of represent missing letters. That's one way that you can think of the apostrophe use here. So apostrophes can be used to show the missing letters in words. So what does this mean? Let's take a look at some examples. For example, when we write do not in the reduced form or the contracted form, we use this spelling, right? Don't, D-O-N apostrophe T. So you can think of this apostrophe as kind of a replacement for the letter that's missing, right? So we have do not. O is missing here. It's kind of like we're showing the O is gone with the apostrophe. So don't. Here's another example. We are. We are becomes we're, right? So again, we have a letter missing. In this case, it's the A. We are becomes we're. So the apostrophe shows where that letter used to be. One more example, I am, this becomes I'm. Again, we have a missing letter. The A used to be right here. We have an apostrophe there instead. So apostrophes can be used in this way to show that letters are missing from a word. So these are extremely, extremely common. You probably know about these already. But I also want to talk about another use that's typically done in books and other stories, those kinds of things. Sometimes this apostrophe, this missing letter apostrophe, is used at the end of a word, or sometimes even in the middle. It's a little bit rare. Usually this is at the end of a word. But sometimes you'll see an apostrophe at the end of a word to express a way of speaking. So this kind of tends to sound a little more casual, or sometimes this is used to indicate like a character's certain way of speaking. So let's look at some examples so you can see what I mean here. Here's one. I'm thinking about what to make for dinner. I'm thinking about what to make for dinner. So first we have this contracted form, right? The apostrophe here. And then we have this, thinkin', thinkin'. Here, the apostrophe is at the end of the word. So we tend to see this use a lot in ing verbs, actually, verbs that end in ing, to show that the G sound is not clearly pronounced. So I'm thinking about what to make for dinner. So this thinkin' is a little bit different from thinking, right? I'm thinking about what to make for dinner would be the standard way to say this, right? But this thinkin' sounds a little bit more casual. People may choose to use this kind of thinking to express a certain kind of casual level of speaking or to express a kind of accent, something like that. So that's what this apostrophe at the end of an ing verb means. It means that G sound is missing. Let's look at another example. We've been walking for hours. We've been walking for hours. So here again, we have this basic contraction. We've been walking for hours. So again, there's this apostrophe at the end of this ing word, right? And the G is missing. So the apostrophe is showing us something is missing and we've cut the word off early. So walking becomes walkin'. Walking. We've been walking for hours. So this expresses a kind of rough or casual manner of speaking. One more. You're working hard. You're working hard. You might hear people say this to you at work, like your coworkers might make this comment to you. You're working hard. Again, we have a basic contraction here. You are, right? And here, working. So the standard spelling is working with a G at the end. We have this apostrophe here that shows something is missing. You're working hard. So this sounds kind of more casual, a little more friendly than you're working hard. Okay, so that's what you might see occasionally. Usually we see this in texts like stories and maybe novels, maybe short stories or essays, that kind of thing. But oftentimes people like to speak this way and sometimes they want to text that way as well too. So if you see this in like a text message or something, that's what this apostrophe at the end of the word means. And as I said, you might see it in the middle, I suppose, in certain places. You might even see it at the very beginning of a word, but that's an indicator, that's a sign that someone has cut off, usually like a letter or something like that, a very small sound, and they're showing that with the apostrophe. Okay, great. So those are the two key points that I want to talk about for this lesson. We use apostrophes to show possession, and we use apostrophes for contractions to show missing letters. I want to finish this lesson by covering a very common couple of questions, some very common errors, some problem points for learners and for native speakers. This question box right here shows them. They are the differences between it's with an apostrophe, it's with no apostrophe, and whose with an apostrophe S and whose, H-O-S-E at the end here. What is the difference? So let's talk about its and its first. IT apostrophe S means it is. It is. IT no apostrophe S is the possessive. So this is an exception to what I talked about over here. Of course, that's like kind of hard for you to remember, I know, but thankfully it's just this one. There's only one that you need to remember this exception for. So it's with no apostrophe is the possessive form, okay? It is this it with an apostrophe S at the end. So this is one tricky one to remember, okay? Then the second one, this whose question. So W-H-O apostrophe S means who is. Who is. W-H-O-S-E is the possessive. So whose bag is this? Right? We're asking about someone's possession. Whose bag is this? Whose marker is this? We use this W-H-O-S-E word to do that. who's with an apostrophe S means who is, like who's he talking to, right? That's not a question of possession. So these words sound exactly the same when we are speaking, right? But it's important to remember that they are very different on paper. So keep these small differences in mind because they do matter. Okay, great. So this is a quick introduction to how to use apostrophes. This is a very basic introduction to this very important punctuation mark, but these rules will help you in the majority of situations. So keep this in mind. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, or if you want to practice making some apostrophe words, feel free to do so in the comment section of this video. Also, if you like this lesson, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Also, check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this video, and I will see you again next time. Bye! Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. In this lesson, we're going to look at 10 different ways to use the preposition by. I'm going to cover some of the most important and most common uses of this preposition, but of course there are some other uses such as phrasal verbs and idioms and so on. Today we're going to look at 10 very important and very great to know uses of this preposition. Let's get started. Okay. First, let's look at this one, number 1 here. This is the use of by to mean near or close, referring to its position from you. So, for example, he lives by the park. He lives by the park. In this sentence, we could replace by with near or close, and the sentence would remain the same. The meaning would remain the same. He lives near the park, or he lives close to the park. Same thing with our next example. My bag is by the door. My bag is by the door. So my bag is near the door, or my bag is close to the door. Last example, she put her coffee by the computer. She put her coffee by the computer. Again, this means near. She put her coffee near the computer. So all of these refer to by as meaning close to something else. Okay, let's move on to the second use. The second use is to describe the method of travel. So we use this by along with a way of getting somewhere, like a bus, an airplane, being on foot, and so on. Here are our examples. We went by bus. We went by bus. So by comes before the method of transportation. In this case, bus is our method. We went by bus. Second example, I've never traveled by train before. I've never traveled by train before. Again, by comes before the transportation type here. Okay, last example, she's coming by car. She's coming by car. So again, we have car here, our method of transportation, and in front of that is by. She's coming by car. Please note the only time that we don't use this is when we're talking about traveling on our feet. When we talk about traveling on foot, we use the expression on foot. So it's about 10 minutes on foot. We don't say by foot or by walking, really. We say on foot. So this is a special exception to this one. If you're talking about buses, trains, cars, bicycles, and so on, you can use this by method. Okay, let's go on to number 3. Number 3 is also about a method, but it's a little more open. We use by to describe methods of doing things. So there are 2 kind of breakdowns that I want to talk about here. The first one is using by before an ing word. So this is a way of expressing the process of something. Let's look at some examples. First, turn on the car by pressing this button. Turn on the car by pressing this button. So in this situation, we have by before this ing word, by pressing. So this sentence is saying you can turn on the car if you do this action. So this part here is telling us the method of turning on the car. Turn on this car by pressing this button. Let's look at another example. Download the file by clicking this link. Download the file by clicking this link. So again, we have by, and next is an ing word, by clicking. So clicking is this motion on the computer or tapping on a smartphone. So download the file by clicking this link. This is another way to say you can download this file if you click this link. So we're talking about the method of doing an action. One more example of this. Make an appointment by calling our office. Make an appointment by calling our office. So again, we have by followed by an ing word. Make an appointment by calling our office. So we're talking about the manner or the method by which we can do this thing. Okay, so this is the first one that I wanted to talk about. The first way that we use this by to describe the method of doing something. We always do this with an ing word after by. There is a second type that I want to talk about, and we typically use this to talk about communication, methods of communication, and methods of making payments. So in this case, we follow by with a noun that's related to communication or a noun that's related to payments. So let's look at these examples. I have two examples I want to talk about here and a couple of notes for you. So first example, I'd like to pay by credit card. I'd like to pay by credit card. So in this situation, it's a payment situation, right? I'd like to pay by credit card. Here we have by, followed by the noun phrase credit card, okay? So this is a very common way to express, I want to use my credit card. It's just a different way of saying, I want to use my credit card. So here we have, I'd like to pay by credit card. Okay, that's one type of payment. Maybe you have a debit card, for example. I'd like to pay by debit card. You might also hear people say, I'd like to pay by check. It's possible you might hear that depending on the region. But we also, in this kind of case, we tend to use the word with a lot, though. So for example, I'd like to pay with a credit card, or I'd like to pay with a check. We also use this when we're talking about cash. We do not use by when we want to pay with cash. We don't say, I'd like to pay by cash. Totally incorrect. We often say, I'd like to pay with cash, or I'd like to pay in cash. You might also hear no preposition. I'd like to pay cash for this, please. So these are all common ways of expressing payment, but we typically use by before a card type. I'd like to pay by card type, or maybe by bank transfer or wire transfer as well. Okay, let's look at the next one. The next one is a communication example. So when I say communication, I mean, for example, phone or fax or email or maybe online meeting and so on. So let's look at this example and then I'll talk a little bit about some other patterns that you might see here. So we sent the contract by express mail. We sent the contract by express mail. So in this situation, we're expressing a kind of communication, or in this case, transfer of information. We sent the contract by express mail. So express mail means physical mail, right? Express means fast, right? So we sent the contract by express mail. You might see this used to talk about the type of mail that was used to send something. So maybe in your country or in your region, there's like a basic kind of mail, express mail, maybe there's a special kind of super express mail, whatever. If it's important to express that kind of thing, like the level of mail, you can use by to do that. By is the most natural way to do that. However, in recent years, we use things like Skype or other online meeting things like Zoom, for example, but we don't really use by to express that. For example, if you want to talk about a meeting that you have on Skype or on Zoom, we generally don't use by to talk about that. We generally don't say, we're going to have the meeting by Zoom or we're going to have the meeting by Skype. We don't use by in these online situations. Instead, we typically use on. We're going to have the meeting on Skype, or we're going to have the meeting on Zoom. So please keep this one in mind. So this by tends to be used to talk about mail, physical mail. You might also see it used to talk about fax, like he sent it by fax. You may also see the word via, V-I-A, used in these cases. So as you can see, there are a few different ways that we can express communication, but I just want to point out that sometimes we do use by in these cases to talk about payments and to talk about communication. But generally, if you want to express the method of doing something, this is a really easy one to remember. By plus an ing verb. Okay, that was a lot of information. Let's go along to the next one then. The next one, number 4, is by used to express a deadline. So a deadline, that means the finish point for something. So let's look at our examples. Submit your application by Friday. Submit your application by Friday. This means Friday is the deadline, so you have until Friday to do this action, okay? The next example, call me by 3 p.m. Call me by 3 p.m. So by is before the deadline for something. So 1 p.m. is okay, 2 p.m. is okay, 3 p.m. is the last chance that you have. So by comes before our deadline, our stop point for the action. Last one, finish the proposal by next month. Finish the proposal by next month. So all of these sentences mean that it's okay to do that action before the deadline. This by just marks the last possible point for something. A lot of learners ask about the difference between by and until, and I'm not going to talk about it in this lesson because there are a lot of differences, but I have a video about this, so definitely check out the by versus until video that I've made, and I hope that that will help answer your questions about those differences. Okay, let's move on to number 5. Number 5, we can use by when we want to express that we are doing something alone or that someone else is doing something alone. There's a very specific grammar point we need to keep in mind here. So let's look at these examples. First, she likes to go to the movies by herself. She likes to go to the movies by herself. So this by herself means alone, just one person. In this case, she. So she likes to go to the movies by herself. We use by before this word, herself. Herself, okay? This is an example of what's called a reflexive pronoun. We're going to see this kind of pronoun in all of these example sentences, so you'll notice a pattern here. Let's look at the next one first, though. I ate lunch by myself today. I ate lunch by myself today. So I ate lunch by, again, myself. So we have this reflexive pronoun here after by. This sentence expresses, I ate lunch alone today. It's just a different way to express that idea. One more example. My son got dressed by himself this morning. My son got dressed by himself this morning. So this is probably a sentence about a very, very young boy. So my son got dressed by himself. Again, reflexive pronoun. So when you want to use this by plus himself, herself, myself pattern, it always is used to express that something is happening alone. Someone is doing something alone. We will always use these reflexive pronouns to do that. So if you want to know more about reflexive pronouns, I also have a video about this topic that you can check out as well for more information. So in this example, I used herself, I've used myself and himself. We also have ourselves or themselves and so on to talk about more than one person, but in those cases, we're talking about doing something with just two people in these cases. So I hope that you check out that other video about reflexive pronouns if you want to know more about this, but this is how we use it together with by. Okay, on to the next one, number 6. Number 6 is a very simple use of by. We use by to talk about the author or the creator of something. So the creator of your favorite book, your favorite song, your favorite movie, your favorite piece of art, and so on. When you want to talk about the person who made it, you can use by to do that. For example, my favorite book was written by George Orwell. My favorite book was written by George Orwell. So by comes before the name of the person who created that thing, in this case a book. Second example, this film was directed by Christopher Nolan. This film was directed by Christopher Nolan. So we have by before the director's name, the movie director's name in this case, Christopher Nolan. So again, this is talking about the creator of a work or the director of a work. Okay, one more. Her favorite piece of music is by Beethoven. Her favorite piece of music is by Beethoven. In this case, we have just one name, Beethoven. So some artists, some creators are known by just one name, or maybe they have a performance name or something like that. If it's a very famous artist like Beethoven, for example, most people just know it by one name, and that's okay. So we use by before the creator's name to talk about the person who made something. Okay, let's move along to number 7 then. Number 7 is to pass a location or to stop somewhere for a short time. We can use by to do both of these things. And you might think, well, how do I know which is which? How do I know if it means pass or stop somewhere? Generally, we can understand from the situation, from the context. So let's take a look at these examples. First, I drove by your house today. I drove by your house today. So here I have drove, past tense of drive a car, by your house today. In this case, it means I passed by your house today. So how do we know that it means pass and it doesn't mean stop? Well, probably if I'm telling the other person, hey, I drove by your house today, I probably didn't talk to that person, right? I'm letting them know, oh, I was in your neighborhood, I was in the area. So if I stopped at the house, I would have talked to the other person, right? They probably would already know. In this case, it means pass. I passed by your house today is another way to understand that. Okay, next one. Can you please stop by the supermarket? Can you please stop by the supermarket? So here we have by before the location. Can you please stop by the supermarket? So how do we know? Does this mean pass or does this mean stop somewhere? Well, our big hints are here. Stop. Can you please stop by, which means go very quickly to the supermarket. It would be very strange to say, can you please pass the supermarket, right? This sounds like a request. We probably would start a request for something with this expression, right? So this one means, can you please stop at the supermarket very quickly for something? Okay, last one. We walked by the library yesterday. We walked by the library yesterday. Here we have walked, again, past tense, by our location, by the library. We walked by the library yesterday. This sounds like it's probably passing. We walked past the library yesterday is how we understand this. So generally, based on the situation, we can understand if it means pass or if it means stop somewhere for a short period. Okay, we're almost done. Let's continue on to number 8 now. Number 8 is using by to talk about changes or differences with numbers. Let's take a look at these examples. First one, sales increased by 15% this year. Sales increased by 15% this year. This means that the total number of sales increased, so it went up. This by shows us how much of a change, okay? So one big question that people have is, is it to or is it by? What should I use here? Sales increased to 15% means that from some, like for example, 13% or 10% or something like that, the point that the sales reached was 15%. However, sales increased by 15% means the total change was 15%. So by and to communicate very different things. By is telling us the difference in change. To is talking about the point that was reached. So they are very different. Keep this one in mind. We tend to use this a lot with the verbs increase and decrease. Also just go up and go down. So we'll see that again in another example. So sales increased by 15% this year. That's the total change. Okay, next example. The temperature went down by 5 degrees. The temperature went down by 5 degrees. So that means the temperature decreased by 5 degrees. This means the total change was 5 degrees. For example, from 30 to 25, that's a 5-degree change, right? Again, if we say the temperature went down to 5 degrees, that means the end temperature was 5 degrees. So again, we cannot use to and by in the same way. By tells us the change or the amount of difference. Okay, last one. We missed our bus by 5 minutes. Oh, sorry, we missed our bus by 2 minutes. So this sentence is a little bit different here. So in this case, we're talking about like a change or a difference in schedule. For example, if the bus leaves at 12 o'clock, we arrive to catch the bus at 12:02, we can say we missed our bus by 2 minutes. So we can express this difference in time with by. So when you miss something or you're late for something, you can use by to do this. Like, oh my gosh, I was late for my plane by an hour. So we're expressing that difference in time with by. Okay, let's move on to number 9. Number 9 is using by for units of measurement. This one is a very straightforward and easy to remember one. So we use by to talk about the dimensions of an object. So dimensions mean the height and the length and the depth of something. So let's look at our examples. This room is 5 meters by 10 meters. This room is 5 meters by 10 meters. So we use by to talk about kind of the total area of a space. So when we're talking about the length and the width, we connect them with by. We can do this with 3 units of measurement too. So I mentioned earlier length and width and height or depth depending on the object. We can do that with something like this. Her bag is 30 centimeters by 60 centimeters by 28 centimeters. So this gives us 3 units of measurement. 30 centimeters by 60 centimeters by 28 centimeters. So we connect all of those different measurements with the word by. Okay, one more example. Our living room is about 13 feet by 18 feet. So in this case, I'm using feet as the measurement. This is a common unit of measurement in the USA. Our living room is about 13 feet by 18 feet. So typically we express 2 dimensions, 2 units of measurement at the same time in this manner. As an example sentence 1 and example sentence number 2 when we talk about a room or maybe a house or something like that. If it's an object, we might use 3 different dimensions to talk about those, but we connect all of those with by. Okay, let's move on to our last one for this lesson. The last use of by I want to talk about is with passive. So we use passive sentence structures sometimes to hide information, or if we don't know who did an action, or if we just want to focus on the effects of the action. But sometimes we want to indicate or we want to share at the end of the sentence who did the action. We can do that with by. Let's take a look. The file was sent by my coworker. The file was sent by my coworker. So a basic passive sentence is just the file was sent. The file was sent. This sentence is 100% correct. But sometimes maybe it's important to share a little bit about who did the action. In this case, we have my coworker. So who did the action? My coworker. Okay, next example. Her bag was stolen by a man on the subway. Her bag was stolen by a man on the subway. So this is answering who stole it? A man on the subway. So we connect the 2 with by here. So again, her bag was stolen is perfectly fine. If you don't know who stole the bag, that's okay. You can just use that sentence. But if you want to include some extra information about who did that action, you can do it with by. Okay, last one. Our reservation was changed by the staff at the hotel. Our reservation was changed by the staff at the hotel. So who changed our reservation? The staff at the hotel. We add this information with by to the end of the basic passive sentence. So you can do this if you want to give that information and you want to use a passive sentence structure for some reason. So it's up to you if you want to use an active or a passive sentence here. That's your choice, but here is how you can share about who did that action. Just use by to do that. Okay, great. So those are 10 uses of the preposition by. As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, of course, there are many other ways to use by. For example, we use it in phrasal verbs, we use the word by in idioms, and there are other expressions that we see by used from time to time. Of course, I cannot cover all uses of by in one video because there are too many, but I hope that these 10 uses will help you a lot and help you to understand the different ways that you can use this preposition in your communication. So I hope that this lesson was helpful for you. If you have any questions or comments, or if you want to practice making some example sentences with this word, please feel free to do so in the comment section of this video. Also, if you like this lesson, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Also, check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this lesson, and I will see you again soon. Bye! Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. In this video, I'm going to look at how to use the preposition to. Let's get started. Okay, first I want to talk about using the preposition to express a destination. So we use to when expressing the end point or the destination of a movement. So we can use this form of to when we talk about our travel experiences, or just when we are talking about moving inside a room, moving inside our community, and so on. So let's take a look at how we use to in this situation. First, she went to the bank. Here, to is before the destination. In this case, the bank. She went to the bank. The bank is the destination or the end point of her movement. We use this with the past tense verb. Next example is they drove to Mexico. They drove to Mexico. In this case, the destination or the end point is a country, Mexico. We put to before the end point here to mark this. Again, we have a movement verb in this sentence. So here we have drove, the past tense of drive. Our first example was went, the past tense of go. Let's look at one more example of this. Let's move this meeting to a coffee shop. Let's move this meeting to a coffee shop. So this is an expression we can use if we want to stop having a meeting somewhere and go somewhere else to continue talking. Here we have the destination or the desired, in this case, end point, a coffee shop here. So this person is making a suggestion. This is not a past tense example, but they're saying, let's move to this destination. So they're talking about a destination in the future. So we can use to before a specific endpoint for our movement. Please keep in mind you cannot use the word there in this case. Sometimes I see learners say, I want to go to there, or I lived to there, or I went to there. So we cannot use there in this position because there is not a specific endpoint. We always use a specific location at the end of this to phrase, okay? So make sure you mark those endpoints with to. Okay, let's continue to the second one. Number 2 is for recipients. Recipients. So that means we use to mark the person receiving something. So in a give and receive situation, when you want to express the person who takes the thing or who receives the thing, you can mark that person with to. Let's look at some examples. Okay, first one. Please send this file to the client. Please send this file to the client. In this case, the client is the person or the group that is receiving the file. Please send this file to the client. If it helps you, you can think of this person as the destination for something. It has kind of the same feel. That's the end point or the end person for the item. So please send this file to the client. Next one. I gave my sweater to my mother. I gave my sweater to my mother. Again, my mother is the recipient of this object, my sweater. I gave my sweater to my mother. So this is one kind of example sentence. There are other ways to talk about giving and receiving. For example, I gave my mother my sweater is also 100% correct. It's just that this is a different pattern that you can use to express this giving and receiving situation. Okay, last example. Take your application to the manager. Take your application to the manager. So again, we have our recipient here. So in the future, this person is going to take their application to this destination person, the manager in this case. So we use to mark the person who receives something or who is going to receive something. They're kind of the end person or the end point person. Okay, let's continue on to number 3 here. So number 1 and number 2 were really about marking endpoints with people and places. Number 3 is about marking an endpoint with time. So we use this a lot when we talk about our schedules. Let's look at a couple of examples and then we'll expand on this a little bit. First, the meeting is 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. The meeting is 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Here, 2 is before 3 p.m. It marks the end point for the meeting, okay? So we put 2 before the end time of something. Let's look at one more example. Her lectures are 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Her lectures are 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Again, we have 2 before the end point, the end time for the lecture. So this is a very, very common use of 2. We use this all the time. I want to mention we often use this form of to with from. So from and to are often used as a pair to talk about the start point and the end point. So we use from before the start point and to before the end point. For example, the movie is from 6:30 to 8. The movie is from 6:30 to 8. From marks the start point, to marks the end point. One more example. I work from 9 to 5. I work from 9 to 5. Again, from is before the start point and to is before the end point. So we always use this pattern when we talk about end points. We cannot swap the two. We need to use to before the end time. Okay, great. Let's move on to number 4 then. Number 4 also talks about an end point. We also use to refer to an end point, but this is in terms of like a maximum of something. When we talk about a range of numbers or a range of time periods, for example, when we want to talk about the last possible of something or the maximum of something, we use to do that. So let's look at these examples. First, we can accept 8 to 10 people for the event. We can accept 8 to 10 people. 8 to 10. This gives us a range of possible people. So minimum is 8 people, maximum is 10 people. Inside this range is acceptable for us. So 2 marks the maximum in this case, the maximum in our range. Okay, let's look at the second example. The meeting will be finished in 5 to 10 minutes. The meeting will be finished in 5 to 10 minutes. Again, we have a range here, 5 to 10 minutes. So when you are trying to estimate the end point of your meeting, you probably are going to use an expression like this, maybe 10 to 20 minutes, or when you're talking about a project you're working on, it'll be finished in maybe, I don't know, 1 to 2 days. You can use this to before the end point or the maximum point for your range. So this is a very, very, very useful use of to. So 5 to 10 minutes gives us the rough start point and the maximum point for our range, the end of our range. Okay, one more. It can take 2 to 3 weeks to review job applications. It can take 2 to 3 weeks to review job applications. So again, we have our range here, from 2, maybe about 2, until the maximum point in our range is 3. So again, we use to before that maximum end of our range point. Okay, great. So we use all of these, 1, 2, 3, and 4 are referring to some kind of end point or some kind of destination in terms of a place or in terms of a person or in terms of a time. Okay, so with this in our minds, let's continue on to some different uses. This side of the board has some kind of different uses that are important to talk about, and these are a little bit more, I guess, conceptual than the first 4 points we talked about. So first, number 5, we use to express purpose. It has the meaning of in order to do something. So we often reduce this in order to just to. So let's look at some examples so you can see what this looks like. First, I went to the store to get milk. I went to the store to get milk. So here we have this first preposition. I went to the store, right? Our destination. So there's first to here is our destination to. Then we have this purpose marking to get milk. This one tells us the purpose of our travels, right? I traveled to the store, or I went to the store in order to get milk. So this one is a purpose to. How do you know when it's a purpose to or a travel to, or I don't know? A good hint is that there's some kind of information at the beginning of the sentence. There's some kind of travel. Like we see here, I went to the store. There's something that's already happening there, and then we have extra information about the reason that happened. So let's look at our second example. He bought a truck to drive to work. He bought a truck to drive to work. Here again, we have a simple past tense statement, right? He bought a truck. And then to drive to work. To drive to work. So he bought a truck in order to drive to work. So this expresses the reason he bought the truck. We use to do this. We do not use for. He bought a truck for drive to work would be incorrect. You may see some for driving patterns, like for plus the ing form. You may see that. He bought a truck for driving for his job or something like that. You might see those kinds of patterns. But we cannot put to and that ing form together, and we cannot put for and drive together. We cannot mix these two, to drive or for driving, but we cannot mix them. Okay, let's look at one more example. She got a part-time job to earn some extra money. She got a part-time job to earn some extra money. Again, we have a simple past tense statement. She got a part-time job. Why? In order to earn some money. So when you see this extra information, this reason for doing something, we use to after, generally like a past tense statement, at least in these examples. We use this to plus that extra information to express the purpose of the situation. Okay, so just keep in mind that yes, there are some cases where you can use to plus that infinitive form or for plus the gerund form, but we cannot mix those two different grammar patterns. So please be careful of that. Sometimes I see that. Okay, let's move on to the last part, just some other uses. So I mentioned this just now, the infinitive verb form. The infinitive verb form is just the base verb form, the form of the verb you see in the dictionary if you look up a word in the dictionary. So we use the infinitive form with to see, or to buy, to go, or to talk. So when you are doing grammar practice or grammar studies, when you see infinitive form or infinitive verb form, it refers to this kind of base form of the verb, to plus the verb. So we use this sometimes in grammar patterns, like we just saw here, to talk about the purpose. So when you see infinitive verb form, that means the to verb form, okay? Another use I want to talk about is just with set expressions. So set expressions can mean idioms, it can mean phrasal verbs, and so on. There are lots and lots and lots of phrasal verbs and expressions that use to, but they are different from these expressions and these uses that I talked about in this lesson. So I wanted to cover a few that maybe could cause some confusion because they seem similar to points number 3 and 4 in today's lesson. So a few set expressions I want to talk about are from time to time, from A to Z, and from person to person. So what do these mean? You see this similar from to pattern here, right? But it's not like a start point and end point, really. So what does this mean? You might see people say from time to time. This expression means sometimes or occasionally. Like, I like to go to the movies from time to time. This just means sometimes. It's a casual way of saying sometimes. This expression, from A to Z, you might think, what? Is this about the alphabet? This is when we're talking about a range of something. So we use this expression, from A to Z, when we want to express that someone can do everything, or that someone is good at a wide range of things. So for example, oh, that tech company, they have so many products, they have everything covered from A to Z. That means that that company, that technology company, can do a lot of different things. So A to Z generally means that they can do everything in like a certain field or in about a certain topic and so on. So you might see from A to Z used. Lastly, from person to person, from person to person. So in this expression, I have person to person, but you may see this used in terms of groups of people, like from community to community, or from city to city, or from country to country, and so on. These usually are used to talk about differences between people, differences between places, countries, maybe languages, and so on. So an example sentence with this one might be something like, opinions are different from person to person. So this means that each person has a different opinion in this example sentence. So this from person to person, or this from noun to noun, where the noun is the same here, refers to usually differences, or maybe just kind of slight differences even in each of those situations or each of those people. So these are a few set expressions that might be a little bit confusing when you see them the first time because they seem to follow this pattern, but they do have some specific uses. And of course, as I said, there are many, many phrasal verbs that use to and other prepositions, but it's not possible to cover all the phrasal verbs in one video. So I wanted to introduce these uses of to in this lesson. So that is it for this lesson. I hope that you got some good information about how and when to use to. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, or if you want to practice making some example sentences with to, please feel free to do so in the comment section of this video. Also, don't forget, if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And also check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this lesson, and I will see you again soon. Bye. Hey everyone, welcome to the Monthly Review, the monthly show on language learning. where you discover new learning strategies, motivational tips, study tools, and resources. By the way, all the lessons and bonuses you're about to see can be downloaded for free on our website. So click the link in the description right now to sign up for your free lifetime account. Okay, today's topic is how to integrate self-study and learning with a teacher and learn faster. Since you're learning a language, are you learning on your own, or are you also learning with a teacher? If you are, but if you're learning different things on the app and different things from your teacher, you're actually spreading yourself thin and slowing your progress. And that's because you're skipping key steps of the learning process. So today, you'll discover why learning separate things from separate sources slows you down, how combining the two helps you learn faster and hits on all the key steps of the learning process, and how to apply these tactics. But first, if you're looking for new free language resources and downloads, here are this month's new lessons and resources. Be sure to download these now before we take them down in a few days. First, the Talking About Language PDF Conversation Cheat Sheet. This cheat sheet will teach you how to talk about languages and phrases like, I can speak a little bit of, I've been learning for 3 years, and much more. And second, the All the Language You Need for Everyday Life Cheat Sheet Bundle, where you get all of our best conversation cheat sheets rolled up into one with this gift. To get your free resources, click the link in the description below right now. They're yours to keep forever. How to integrate self-study and learning with a teacher and learn faster. Part 1. Do you combine self-study and learning with others? If you think about it, most language learners learn on their own with a few different resources, a few apps, and maybe a textbook. And then you have learners that do both self-study and learning with a tutor. But for the most part, they learn different things from different sources. Words on this app, different phrases on that app, and maybe some unrelated grammar with a tutor. Is this something you do? Because if you do, then this disconnected approach can slow your language progress down. How exactly? There's a simple formula to learning successfully. Successful learning requires 1. Acquiring new information, 2. Practicing using what you've learned, 3. Getting feedback and implementing it, and then 4. Getting assessed, someone telling you if you're on the right track or not. So if you want to learn fast, you'll want to do all of these things. Now, if you're learning alone, then you're mostly just acquiring new information. New words from this app, unrelated phrases from that app, and so on. You're just jumping from resource to resource without practicing and getting feedback on what you've learned. And you're not going to remember what you learn as well. You're missing some critical steps of the learning process, namely the practice, feedback, and assessment from a native teacher. And even if you are learning on your own and with a teacher, but there's no overlap with your self-study, you're still missing the practice for what you're doing on your own. So it's best to combine your self-study with what you're doing with a teacher, so that you learn on your own and go on to practice what you've learned with a teacher and get feedback. Now, you might be thinking, why not just learn with a teacher then, without self-study? If you're learning with a tutor or teacher, then it also becomes a question of time. You're on a limited schedule. Your teachers are on a limited schedule. Plus, you have to pay for their time too. Let's say you have 1 hour of classes a week with a native speaking teacher. How would you want to spend it? Do you want to spend that hour listening to grammar explanations and learning new words? Or do you want to use that time practicing speaking and getting feedback? If you spend that hour learning words and grammar rules, then you have to wait until the next time to practice. And that takes even more time, money, and slows down your progress. So it's better to learn and prepare ahead of time on your own, and then practice those concepts with the teacher later. But if you don't prepare ahead of time, you become like that one person you probably had in your class. They didn't come prepared, and the teacher always had to stop and explain everything to them and slow the class down. There's always one person like that. And it'd be better for the student and their progress if they prepared on their own. So the point of integrating self-study and learning with others is to make the most of your time with a teacher. practice what you've learned on your own and get feedback as you practice. Otherwise, if you come to a teacher without preparation, they'll just spend the time explaining grammar rules or reviewing vocabulary, and it's not actually implementing what you've learned on your own, which you won't get to practice until next time, if at all. And if you're just doing self-study, then you likely won't get a chance to practice at all. But it's the practice and feedback that helps the language stick, and that's the part you can't skip. Part 2, how to integrate self-study and learning with others. So, here's what you can do. 1, join our live group classes. We're currently offering live group classes for Japanese, English, Italian, Chinese, Korean, Spanish, French, Portuguese, German, Greek, and Thai. Our live classes provide you with lessons you can study on your own, and then you get to practice with our teachers in the live classes. 2, find a teacher or tutor that works with the same resource that you have, whether it's our program or a textbook. Have the tutor see what you're studying so they can match. And it's important that there's overlap, that what you're learning with the tutor and on your own is the same, so you can learn on your own and practice with the teacher. 3, you can also try our Premium Plus plan if you're not quite ready for live classes. Our Premium Plus teachers are familiar with our learning program, so there's no disconnect between what you learn on your own and what you'll learn with them. And 4, find a friend or a community that's learning with the same resource as you. That way, you can practice with them and they can step in and clear up any questions that you may have. So, do you combine self-study and learning with others, or do you plan to? Leave us a comment. So, thank you for watching this episode of Monthly Review. Next time, we'll talk about your pronunciation is terrible. Is pronunciation important or not? If you enjoyed these tips, hit the like button, share the video with anyone who's trying to learn a language, and subscribe to our channel. We release new videos every week. And if you're ready to finally learn language the fast, fun, and easy way and start speaking from your very first lesson, get our complete learning program. Sign up for your free lifetime account right now. Click the link in the description. See you next time. Bye! If you want to learn the language fast, there are some little-known learning hacks that you can use with our system. 5 learning hacks that you didn't know about. And in this quick guide, you'll discover 1. How to understand and pick up on every word with the read-along method. 2. How to improve your speaking and pronunciation with one tool. 3. How to immerse yourself in native dialogues, and much more. But first, if you don't yet have access to our language learning system, sign up for a free lifetime account right now. Just click the link in the description to get your free lifetime account. Ever listen to a conversation between native speakers and wish you could follow along with a transcript? Well, you can. In fact, listening and reading along is a popular learning hack for mastering a language. You pick up on every word, you improve your listening skills, reading skills, and engage multiple senses at once, which improves recall. And you can do just that with our lessons. On every lesson page, you get the complete word-for-word transcript to read along with. Shadowing is another popular language learning trick, and it's where you repeat what you hear as a way to improve your speaking skills. So, as you're taking our lessons, you can shadow the lesson conversation, and you can do this easily with the line-by-line audio dialogue, which breaks up the conversation into individual lines. Just press play on the audio to listen and then repeat. You can also use the pronunciation practice tool to compare yourself to native speakers. Just press the microphone icon, record yourself speaking the line, and then you can hear how your pronunciation compares to the native speaker. The dialogue tracks give you just the conversation of the lessons, no translations, so that you can review the conversations without retaking lessons. And if you're learning with our app, you can just set the dialogue tracks on autoplay and immerse yourself in different types of dialogues, boost your listening skills, and drill all the conversations into your brain. Just go into the settings on the app, and in autoplay, make sure autoplay is on. Turn on dialogue, turn off the other tracks, also set play next lessons to on, and the app will do the rest for you. Now, if you're not sure whether you're getting the most out of the lesson or not, well, if you follow our lesson checklists, you'll walk away knowing more of the language guaranteed. This premium PDF can be found inside the PDF download section of the lesson and gives you bonus tips to follow. Just print out the checklist and fill it out with every lesson. The word bank is kind of like your extended brain, where you can save words and phrases that you come across to the word bank, so you review them later. Just look for the word bank in the vocabulary menu on the site. But what's cool is you can also create printable study sheets for your words and phrases as well. Just click on Printer-Friendly Version. You can also click Export Word Bank. If you've organized and labeled your words into categories, such as verbs and adjectives, you can select that label and export it as a PDF. Then print the file out. You can write on it and keep it as physical study material. So, if you want to learn the language and get access to these learning tools and our learning system, sign up for a free lifetime account right now. Just click the link in the description to get your free lifetime account. Remember, here's what you can do to learn all of these words by heart. Drill these words with our spaced repetition flashcards, which will help cement these words into your long-term memory. Save them to the word bank, your personal vocabulary collection, where you can print out your own study sheets, or review the words with our looped vocabulary slideshow and play it until you know all of the words. So click the link in the description right now and sign up for your free lifetime account to get these lessons and study tools. Great work! Here's a reward. Speed up your language learning with our PDF lessons. Get all of our best PDF cheat sheets and ebooks for free. Just click the link in the description.